Hello everyone, today I am making a rough video where I am going to be going through how to install a 2022 server, convert it into a domain controller, and then making Active Directory, and then installing Windows 10 on vSphere 7.0 version, and then I am going to connect the Windows 11 to the domain controller. Why are we doing this? Because our interns are going to be doing a kind of like a grant project for internship. This is where they come in, they learn from different materials, and of course this type of project when we give is a very hands-on project, and it's just like the where they learn material, but at the end they have something like this where they build everything from scratch, gives them a solid hands-on experience. Now if you are wondering how do I take this type of learning and access, then this link will be available. This is our full development program. Yes, it's paid, so it's a very kind of like involved program where you are learning self-paced and everything is given to you. It's very flexible, but at the same time you have to perform tasks, projects, hands-on projects, and get with us, and we have to mentor you, but you're still learning on your own time, and everything is very powerful, and the access that we give is super hands-on. So if you want to learn this type of skills for free, this playlist will be available to you as well. This is 15 hours worth of live training that we used to do before. We don't do live trainings anymore, but it's the same type of skills that you can learn from these videos. You can replicate it just like how I am doing it. You can replicate it exactly the same way, and you're going to learn a lot that we teach in this program. Of course, it's not going to be like exams and test out type of access, practice lab, 100+ labs for 1 year, but it's still a lot powerful. So now what I won't do in this rough type of thing is I'm not going to show how do you create a VMware ESXi. This is something that we have done in our channel. So if you're getting stuck in that area, go back to JobSkillShare, type JobSkillShare ESXi or VirtualBox, and learn how do you create your own lab. Okay. So another thing, of course, I have already downloaded the ISO, and that's something I also show in the YouTube video. So we're not going to waste our time with that. This is a 2022 server. This is a Windows 11. And how do you create a virtual machine? So now this is a totally empty ESXi with 16 GB RAM in it. 2 GB is being used by this server, and then we have this much space available. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is to create a virtual machine. So let's try that. All right, so let's click on create a new virtual machine. And here we need to give it a name. So I'm going to do DCDH. And then we can leave this one on top, which is the latest Windows. And then we will choose 2022 64-bit. This is a total space that we have in this server, so we need to make sure we don't give it too high GB. So it's 2 CPUs enough for now. Memory isn't enough as well, and you need to make sure that you change this to thin provision so you can change it later on. We need to change 90 to 45 because we don't have a maximum size is pretty much this much. We don't want to go beyond this. So let's go ahead and click next. But before doing that, we need to make sure that we assign an ISO, and we are installing 2022 server. We're going to select, click next, and finish. Now this is our template. We are going to go ahead and power it on, and as soon as you power it on, it's going to ask you to hit enter key. So I'm going to hit inside the black screen and then hit enter key. If you missed it, you can redo it or just leave it for 60 seconds. A blue screen will come up, and then choose the option where it says the CD-ROM option. So this is going to be, you're going to be using your keyboard arrows, go down and then pick that, and then this will start again. So here we're going to click next and click on install now. So we need to install the data center for a desktop experience, we need to click that and click next. And then we're going to click accept agreement. And because we're installing the brand new server, we're going to click on custom. And we already created 45 GB space, so we're going to use that. And click next, and that's it. And we're going to leave this running now. It's going to do its installation. It's going to go out and start installing it. So once the installation is finished, we're going to come back to this. All right, so it's finished, and it's going to go ahead and install after this. Okay, we're going to go ahead and restart. So while this is happening, from your lectures that we have shared with you, you now understand that this is a virtual machine running on a system like ESXi, or a lot of companies uses this type of access these days. It's called virtualization. And now cloud systems are there too, so this could be running inside the cloud as well. So you see this is a VM virtual machine, and the operating system of this is a server. It's nothing but just a simple standalone operating system. It's not a service provider. Like it doesn't have any power right now. Nothing is connected to it. It's everything what's happening is inside this, and it's not impacting anything else. No users can utilize it, or it's not controlling anything. So our first goal is going to be first to configure this virtual machine, this server 2022, to make it capable of doing that, right? So the first thing you want to do is to kind of get in, and this is the basics. When people say, do you know how to install a server? Just a server, 19, 16, 19, 22, this is what they're talking about. You're just installing a operating system. So here we're going to use a password. And once you do that in the servers, it immediately goes to all control delete. So in this environment, ESXi, you click on action, guest OS, send keys, all control delete. If you try to do that on your real keyboard, of course, that's going to be hitting your main machine. So right now you see this is an administrator account, and it's just a local administrator account at this point. So you go ahead and log in. And now we are inside the server. So when you log in, it is going to do its initial startup for the first time, and it's going to take a second or two to see right here setting it up. And it's going to open a GUI, server manager, and just how server works. So just like, a normal operating system, servers are the same way. You can see the look of it almost the same like Windows 10, So if you check it out right now, it's going to open up the server manager and click yes to the network right here. So you need to have a networking going on. Right now it's getting IP address from its default gateway, and everything is just normal. Nothing special done to the server yet. So this is a server manager. If you don't want to see this message, you can click here like that, and that's the server manager. Now, every time if somebody opens a server in front of you and you see something like this, that doesn't mean that you're on the server. Make sure that you verify it by going to the system like this, and then verify everything from here. So you see Microsoft gives its generic name, and if you see it's a CPU, everything, but the specification is where you verify, right? You don't want to just assume or guess because you saw the server manager in there. You want to make sure you come over here and then you do that. Another way is to go to the CMD, like this CMD, you open that and you type WinVer. So if you type WinVer and just do that, and it will tell you exactly which version it is and the name, 2022 server. So now that we have a clean Windows Server operating system, we don't want to use this name because we want to convert this into a domain controller. And anyways, you shouldn't be using this. No one's going to remember this. So you just simply click on rename this PC. So remember, if people will ask you something basic, do you know how to change the server name? it's simply they're asking, can you change the computer name? So when you went to the systems, you came over here, click on rename this PC, and it's very simple. You just change that. In our lab systems, of course, I'm using DH my initials, sorry, DC, domain controller, and DH my initials. And everybody would be using this method. So then we can differentiate domains from each other. So we're gonna click next. And it's gonna say restart this server. We're gonna go ahead and restart it now. So after restart, the same process, section, guest OS, all control delete. We're gonna log back into this server. So as you can see, this is a normal server, nothing on. So we need to do a few things before we start changing this to a domain controller. Now, warning, this is a lab setup. In a lab, we do certain things like turn off the firewall, stuff like that. Of course, in a real environment, you will never do this. You will always follow a proper procedure from Microsoft documentation and your engineers or whoever you work with. And usually this type of work is done by sysadmins, senior engineers, or people who have a lot of knowledge about domain, Active Directory, forest, stuff like that. They do this type of stuff. Help desk usually don't do this. In your lab environment, you only do this because when you build a house yourself, you have a lot of knowledge. Your confidence on Active Directory becomes 2x because you have done it yourself. You built everything yourself. So this is why we're doing certain things in the lab environment. So the first thing we need to do is to turn off the firewall. So because we don't want to have issues with firewalls, internal firewalls. So let's go ahead and turn it off. Again, this is never recommended for your own machines or office machines. You never do that. There are other ways. You have to, when you create a domain controller, you follow a procedure, basically like a step-by-step procedure. In a lab environment, we do it quickly because we want to learn about Active Directory and level 1 skills and not server level skills at this point right now. So we don't care about this stuff. Okay, so you have done that. Now if somebody say, is this a domain controller or not, you can simply come over tools and hey, you see there's no Active Directory installed, there's no domain services installed on the left side. You don't see any of that stuff. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to click on manage and we're going to click on add roles and features. And then we're going to click on next, click next. And you see my name is confirmed. If you see a big name here, that means you didn't restarted the machine here. You need to make sure you do that. And I have an IP address of 200. So to convert the server into a domain controller, we need to click on Active Directory Domain Services. As soon as you do that, you're going to get more features. Click on Add Features and click Next. And don't touch anything else yet. And we're going to click Next, Next, and Install. It's very simple. So we are going to wait for this installation to finish. So again, if you want to learn this stuff like what is Active Directory, what is a domain controller, even in our PC Pro course, when people are taking the PC Pro, the first course, which is this one, the second one also covers some of it in a very detailed way, but the first one even covers the contents. Our interns basically kind of like, let me just quickly search Active Directory. You see that right there. So they will go over Active Directory. What is Active Directory? Or we join a computer to a domain. Somebody explains all of this stuff, group policies, and because it's a help desk level job. So you see that they're not going into like what is a forest or domain level services and all that kind of crazy stuff that a sysadmin will need to learn. So, but even then, somebody explains this in this type of trainings. And when you go into the second course, it also covers Active Directory again in the second course. So let's go ahead and find that. So there you go. So you can see in the second course as well, Active Directory, Client Pro Active Directory, right there, manage groups, and it goes again a little bit more similar stuff in there, but maybe in Client Pro it adds a little Azure Active Directory as well, because that's a new stuff that's happening these days. So you see there's using domain user accounts, and it goes a little beyond the basics after that. So it's covered in multiple places in this type of courses. Now, if you want to learn Active Directory at a very deeper level, you're a person who is already in IT and you say, hey, I want to become a sysadmin, then our practice lab have full-blown courses on 2019 server, 2016 server, which is currently being used. 2022 is just coming out right now. So it's being handled there in our practice lab, and this is where we give this access, 1 year access for practice lab in the same program. So even if you land a job, you can actually go for it. All right, so going back to the promoting this server to the domain controller, you're going to click on that. This is an important step right here. You need to make sure you click on add new forest because we're trying to install a brand new server. Here again, I'm going to use dcdh.jobskillshare.org. You can use anything, but our interns will be using this method because we want to make sure everything is in sync. But anybody else can use anything. Like if you have own a domain, if you don't own a domain, maybe use .local like that here. So that will make sense. But that's what we use. All right, so now click next. This information, just keep default and use the default password. You can use anything you want. Maybe make sure that it's a little complex. If you use ABCD, it may not work. So complex password, and every domain controller you see it needs its own DNS. So when we create a domain controller, it's going to create its own DNS server. So we're going to click next here. It's going to go out and fetch the BIOS name, and we're going to leave it as is, but keep a note of it, what that is, because it may be important later on when you're troubleshooting things. So you see it gave me DCDH0. I'm going to click next. All this information is not useful at this level for help desk, so we're going to click next. If you ever felt like you want to do this from a PowerShell, you can view this script, maybe change things a little bit if you want to change the names and drop it into PowerShell, and it would immediately start creating a domain controller for you without clicking everything. So we'll click next. You may get some warnings, just ignore that and click next, install. After installation, it's going to say you will be signed out, so it will automatically do that. I'm just going to start closing, but it will sign me out automatically, and it's going to restart. And now our server is a domain controller. That's all you need to do, and this is now a powerful server, right? Before I said that this server was kind of like alone, standalone. It didn't provide anything, but now we made it a domain controller. Now it just needs clients, it needs machines, it needs users, and you can control everything from this server. Printers, policies, group policies, you know, a lot of stuff that can be controlled on this, because that's what the server does. It's like a service provider, right? It has these powerful services. So now you see when we restart it, we're not gonna see the similar just one login. It's gonna give us multiple options. So think about this scenario is that when you have a company and when they create a domain controller, somebody like a sysadmin or engineer, they go and then they do all this stuff in a proper way, right? They will have servers, they will create all this stuff. So when you are now getting a job in a company as a technician, think of this like this is what happened before you. This is a story, a visual story that I just showed you. So now you know, okay, if our company is using Active Directory and all of our client machines are connected to Active Directory, then someone have done this type of stuff, right? So now you have a visual understanding, and now it's up to you. You can find what are those domain controllers, what kind of infrastructure they use, what type of technology they use to put that server on. Is it a cloud type or is it like a virtualization? Are they using Linux virtualization? Whatever that is, right? You have some type of clue now. A visual clue, and you're not just logging into a laptop and somebody say you're the help desk, go ahead and reset password for people. Now you have that understanding that this is how things are happening. Why am I help desk? Who created me? Always ask this question now. Who created my account? So now you know who created your account and where is it created now. This is a big thing because after this, you analyze things better. You troubleshoot things better. So let's wait for this. And when we log in, we are going to create the help desk, the IT support in this system. So then you will be installing your own Windows 11 machine, and you will connect your Windows 11 machine back to this system. And now you will know the whole flow of how domain connection works and how people say, hey, do you know how to connect a machine to a domain? Can you unjoin a machine from a domain? Do you know the work group versus domain type of connection? So before this server, when I installed it and it has no domain services running, this is basically called a work group. This was totally a standalone machine. Now, because we installed domain controller, Active Directory, everything on this server, this became a domain services type of network. So let me show that to you in more visual way. So we log into this server now again. Now you see you have the DCDH0/administrator on. If I do other users, sign into DCDH. So now I can log back in to this server because it's going to log me in to administrator. Administrator is going to be now the account on both levels, right? So if I log in right now, this administrator account is also capable of maintaining your Active Directory. It's not just a local account anymore. So if I come over here and open a server manager, here you need to wait a little bit because now you install domain services, Active Directory, DNS. So it's going to take a little more time, and on the top you're going to see this is loading right now. So you see there's nothing showing up now, but in a second it's going to show and tell you now it's different than the first thing that we saw before. It's going to show you that domain services and stuff like that is installed on the server. So after 60 seconds or 40 seconds, ADDS is showing up, DNS, file and storage services. And now if you click on tools, you see there's so many things got added right now. Group policy, DNS, and now you see that there is Active Directory users and computers. This is it. This is where now you see the Active Directory is right here. It's so simple. So now you as a help desk who's learning Active Directory, which a lot of people get scared of, like how do I get Active Directory? It's that simple. You saw the whole flow now. You never care about what's in the server anymore at this point. You're not trying to become a sysadmin. So you should stop thinking too much about, hey, what about the DNS stuff? What about this other stuff? What about this other stuff? That's sysadmin level learning. So now your focus should be Active Directory right here, because that's where you, as a help desk, IT support, sometimes you get a lot more access, like a one-man IT shop, and you get access to this, exactly this. So, of course, in most of the companies, they don't let you use Active Directory on the server directly. So this is where they create you first, you as a help desk. So I, as a sysadmin, assume I'm a sysadmin, I'm gonna go ahead and add you to my company before hiring you. So I decided we're looking for a help desk, and let's say your name is a help desk. Help. Oops. I always use Monica, but today we're going to use help desk. So this is our help desk, and naming convention is done by companies. They will tell you how to use a name, username, everything. This is something that you will learn from your courses, your trainings that we provide, videos and stuff like that. All of this stuff I'm not going to go through because I really think that this should be done in a more proper way of learning, or maybe the free learning from here. So you click on finish. We just created a help desk account, but in this case we don't want to just create a user account. We want to create a little more powerful account. This help desk have domain rights too. So if it was just a normal user, we won't be doing this, right? It'll be domain user only. But since this is a help desk, he has to do a lot of powerful stuff. We're going to make it a domain admin and click apply. So this person is a domain admin now. Okay, so we have created, this is how they create you. And then people can restrict access for help desk too on this system. You may have access to this or whatever it is. So administrator can limit your access on this type of access. So you can do resetting only. You can create users, but you cannot delete them, blah, 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 right? Different things. So you got created. Now you must be wondering, well, my account is created, but then how do I actually, what do I do with it? So of course I can demonstrate that on this server by logging in and logging into the help desk, but that's not going to be a good demonstration. Now this server is running forever and you don't touch it as a help desk, right? So we're going to say cancel. So what do we do next? We need to now install a Windows 11 machine. In a real world environment, somebody will give you a laptop, they will install a Windows 11 like physically, right? They're going to do that for you and then put it on domain for you, and they will make you log into your machine, and boom, you started your job. So this is where your story starts. But here you can create your own machine, so you understand how to install Windows 11. Sorry. We're going to call it help desk and DH. Windows, we are going to pick Windows 11. Now you see this is a 7.2 version, ESXi, so the newer versions probably might have Windows 11, but this one don't. You can pick Windows 10. 64-bit, click next. Okay, since we're going to be working on this Windows system, let's make it 8 GB. And this we can leave it 48. And let's make it thin. You see, I change it to thin here. Again, ISO, you pick the Windows 11 now. Click next and finish. Same process, we're going to click on power on, go to the console, and we're going to hit the key like that. You see, I'm pretty quick here. I opened it very quickly. I clicked inside the black screen, then I clicked the key. If you missed it, you wait. Once you go to the blue screen, use your keyboard arrow and select the second option where it says CD-ROM, and you're going to get back to this option. All right, so this is where the fun will start, because when you're installing Windows 11 on ESXi, it may not work. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Install now. When you get to this point, you can say, I don't have a product key. You're going to click on that. And we want to install Windows 11 Pro. We're going to click next. Oh, so you're going to see this error. Now, I'm not sure if this is something you're going to see in a newer version of ESXi, but if you do see this, there's a fix for it. Okay, there's one way you can hit Shift and F10, and if that doesn't work, let's say when you do this, it doesn't work, then there's another way you can do this. You basically close this. Let's go ahead and cancel this and click on repair your computer. Now this is where the advanced type of troubleshooting will start. So if you're brand new, this may be a little too advanced for you, but some people may ask you, do you know how to do registry settings? Do you know how to get to a command line? This is what we're talking about. So you get to learn these skills from different type of learning. Like from here, PC Pro, Client Pro, some videos, some real world videos, some practice yourself, all that stuff will happen when you practice hands-on. Repair your computer, click on troubleshoot, click on command prompt. And here you will type regedit, R-E-G, edit, and click enter. So now you see you're in a registry editor. So now you need to expand HKey local machine. Now here's a warning for if this is your personal machine, you never want to play around with this. If you do that, you may mess up your computer completely, permanently. I'm not responsible for that. So make sure you got my warning right here. So don't play around with this if you don't know how to do this. If it's a lab environment, yes, go ahead and mess it up. But if it's your main machine, make sure you're not in the main machine and trying to do all these things. So this just warning right there. So when you are in an HKey local machine, I want you to click on systems. So expand that. Once you expand it, then I want you to click on setup here. So go ahead and expand that. So right now we are in the setup. All you have to do is right click on the setup and click on new key. And you need to make sure that you type it exactly, capital L lab config like that, config. Okay, it has to match the same C capital and then enter or click right in here. So now we need to create two D word keys. So when you right click here, we need to click on new, and then this is a D32-bit, D word 32-bit, and you need to exactly type how I'm typing, bypass, like that. Okay, bypass, and then you're gonna type TPM, TPM, and then check. The check is gonna be the capital letter. So once you do this, basically right click here, go to modify, and change this to 1, just like that. Okay, so once you finish this, you need to basically do another one for this. I'm not sure if this is actually required or not, but you may need to do this for it to work. So here we're gonna make another key, new, D word, bypass, and here you're gonna type secure with S capital, secure boot B with capital, and then check C with capital, exactly like that. Right click, modify, change this to 1. That's it. Now here's the key. You do not want to cancel or restart things. So cancel it, but don't cancel this command line and restart. Now this is important. If you do that and you restart your machine, it may not work. So what do? You type setup and click enter. You're gonna get back to the setup. It's going to click next. You do the same process. I don't have the key. Windows 11 Pro, click next. Boom, it worked. Okay, so that's how you bypass that. And now you click on custom, click next, and now it's installing Windows 11. All right, so our Windows 11 is installed. It's going to do the same process. It's going to automatically restart, so we'll wait for that. So now you see that the initial process of setting up a Windows 11 is almost like Windows 10, but they did change a little bit of GUI and setup, so you may have to play around with it. If you're brand new to IT, then yes, I highly recommend you go and watch how to set up a Windows 10 in our trainings, because it's almost similar, and most of the companies are going to be using Windows 10 right now and slowly moving towards Windows 11 later on. So it's highly recommended if you're new and you're learning skills to watch Windows 10 setup, and then also watch Windows 11, so you get a little more experience. So here's the first screen. This is how Windows 11 usually starts. As you can see, the logo is a little different. The initial setup is a little different, a little more modernish. So now you're going to click on, I'm going to click on United States here. For keyboard, we are going to click US, and then the rest we can skip it right now. It will be checking some updates, so give it some time. So just like server, we don't want to use a generic Windows name, so it's a good time for us to just change that. So let's go ahead and change it to helpdesk DH. Now you do remember that when you install a VM template, that doesn't mean that the operating system name will also change. So you have to keep in mind when you create something like on top like VM, you still have to change the name of the operating system. So we're going to click on next. So we got some important information right here. If this was a personal setup, then you would choose the first one. If this is for work or school type of setup, you will choose a second one. Now, because we're trying to learn things for our IT support professionals, we're going to use this one. And we're going to click next over here. Now, a lot of organizations, when they are small business or even large, they may have totally, let's say, removed on-premises Active Directory domain controller, or maybe they may have some other setup going on where they're using a direct Microsoft accounts. Then you will set up your machine like this, and it's being controlled a lot more on a cloud, Office 365 level, Azure level. But this is something we will touch later on, because For this to understand, you need to understand how the normal stuff works, because most of the companies are using hybrid type of connections where you have clients working inside the business or using a VPN, and then they use a normal way of connecting to a Windows by using Active Directory accounts, and then they use for email, they use Office 365 access. So for this, you need to click on sign in options. You see it gives you two options. Right here is a domain join instead. So that's what we're talking about. Right now we're trying to manage this machine, this one, from this guy, this server, because it doesn't have it right now, right? We're just installing a normal machine right now. So first we need to click on domain join machine instead. It doesn't do anything. It's just going to say enter your name, and here we will let's say type our name, help desk. I think I made a mistake there. All right, let's do help desk. And now we're going to give it a password. Now our interns are going to use a generic password so we can log in and check their progress. Of course, I'm just using test here for these security questions. That's what everybody will be using it. You need to change it. So for the third question, I'm going to use test again and click next. Now in our internship lab, you need to uncheck all of this, but it's your personal choice. If you are doing this on your own lab, I am just not sending any data, and I'm going to accept it. So after this, the machine will start. It's going to do the same Windows 10 type of welcome. We're making things ready, all that kind of stuff. Now, while this is happening, is another tip that I want to share when you're using ESXi or any virtualization. Snapshotting or taking a quick backup is extremely important. Let's say you install Windows Server. Before making it a domain controller, you could right click and click on snapshot and take a snapshot here. You could done the same thing with DC like this, take a snapshot over here. So this way, when let's say you're putting this machine on a domain or doing a lot of changes and something messed up, then you can actually come back to it very quickly. Now do keep in mind that making a lot of snapshot would impact your space. So if you don't have too much space, then you don't want to be taking snapshot every other step. You want to be making snapshot when it's important, when you think that it's a lot of work and I can just go back. Like for example, if I install Windows 11 right now, it's a good time for me to, when it's restarted, I should take a snapshot, because I don't want to do all of this again, you know, these little tiny things. So a snapshot will save me from all of this work, and I can just quickly learn skills effectively. All right, this is Windows 11. It looks like they just copied everything from Mac, man. Come on. Okay. Anyways, that's how I feel about it. Okay, there you go. This is Windows 11, people. Help desk account is right over here. One thing that I find a little hard is like I would start clicking this white area. I feel like this is a search, and I'm so used to that. But the search is right here, as you can see. The way I do things when something is brand new like this one, I'm just going to use search and start looking for the things that I like to change. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's a brand new system. Nobody expects you to be a master of a brand new system. Nobody expects that. So come and do the search, look for like firewall. Like for example, we want to change the firewall settings for this as well. And again, warning, you don't do this in a real machine. This is just a lab one, okay? So we don't have any issues. So I open the firewall, I turn off the firewall on this, so then I have no issues with domain joining and everything. Now, you don't do this in real environment. So now a lot of people say, why don't you do this in a real environment? Because in real environment, everything is a little more properly done. Like DNS is working correctly. As soon as you connect a machine to a network, it's going to automatically find the DNS. It's going to do a lot of things automatically, because that's how it's done on a network level. It's beyond the skill set of help desk, so you don't have to worry too much about that. But here you're just trying to make things easier so you can learn the help desk skills more effectively, like Active Directory, permissions, software deployments, blah blah blah, different type of skills that you want to learn. Folders, mapping a drive, command line, pinging machines, that sort of stuff. So is this machine now being managed by this domain controller? No, because it's still a workgroup machines. So how do you know? Like if you go to a, let's say, CMD, and you type who am I, you see it says help desk DH/help desk, right? So it's clearly telling us that you're logged into a account that is actually not a part of a domain. But is this machine a part of a domain? You can also find that out. And how do you do that? You can simply click on up arrow and then space and then / and then you do question mark. So when you do a question mark, this is how you learn command line stuff too. You see fully qualified domain name, or you can, there's different names to it too. So if you type who am I, like just exactly like that, FQDN, you see it says unable to get fully qualified distinguished name. This is what they're using as current logged on user in is not a domain user. One is that way. Okay, another one is that, let's say I right click on this start. Okay, this is how you do the other way check. You do a system and you go to a system. It doesn't give any other information, right? Like it doesn't give you like, is this a part domain? Again, this is where you see this is a Windows 11 machine. This is where the settings are and everything like that. Okay, so at this point I don't know exactly how to find if this machine is on a domain or not. One easy way is that you can open a system's properties just like we used to do it before to find that out easily, right? So one, I can say, let's say if I click on related links, if I click on domain or workgroup, if I click on this, you see this is the old way of doing things, by the way. And I love this because in some systems it's not easy to find this box. So now here you see the computer name, and if you look at here, you click on change, you're not on domain, you're on a workgroup. This is being managed standalone. I mean, nobody's managing this machine right now. As you can see, it's a part of a workgroup. If I come over here and I want to change this to a domain, then let's see if it works. This is where the key point of a lab systems is that, remember, this domain controller has a DNS of its own. You're telling this machine to be managed by this domain controller, which has its own DNS. But if you come over here and you say IP config, again, so if we type IP config here, and you can see that our IP address of this machine is 6510.65. The basics, again, I'm going to use, let's say I want to use the basics of pinging the machine. So if I do DCDH, so you can see the ping is not reaching to that domain right now. And that's fine for now. We are not worried about that stuff at this point, but we know that the IP of that machine is .19. And if you come over here, let's say you go to the machine right here, we're going to go ahead and log in and verify this IP address. Okay, so now we're on a domain. We're going to do CMD. I want to know the IP and config for this server, which is 200. So here's the thing. The reason I demonstrated that, because I wanted to show you how easy it is to basically, you may do something in your environment and just think like, okay, that's how it is. But when you actually verify it yourself by going out there, you find out. The reason I did this because I knew this IP address is not correct. And since this machine doesn't know anything about this brand new DNS, it's just pulling some data from a local DNS settings that it's going to right now. So where's the local one? The local gateway is this right here, 10.1. But we know that this server have its own DNS right now. Even if it says on the same server it says .1, that doesn't mean anything to us right now. So if I do, let's say IP config /all, You see the DNS of this server is this. It's a loopback address. So it's saying that I am the DNS. So who's the DNS? This address, 200. So if you come over here and you do, if you come back and let's say IP config/all, and if you look at this, the DNS of this is what? It's different. It's gonna go back and it's gonna pull the entry from that. So it doesn't work. It will not work that way. But if I try to do ping 192, let's say 192.168.10.200, the ping is working. So you need to make sure that you do your checking on the machines to be very sure, because you can waste a lot of time not doing it correctly. So how do we put this on a domain now? Since we haven't done anything to a DNS, this is where the issue will start. A lot of people will come over here. There's two ways to join this to a domain. Now, one is this way. You're going to type dcdh.jobskillshare.org. Remember, we made this Active Directory, right? Do you guys remember that? You went to the Active Directory. You created this whole domain controller. Where is this coming from? You go to tools, you go to users and computers, and you're trying to connect that machine to this dcdh.jobskillshare.org, and you want to place it right here. There's nothing in here right now. Refresh, nothing. You want to put this machine on this so you can be managed. It can be on domain network, right? Domain network. So if I come over here and I say dcdh.jobskillshare.org and I click OK, it gives me a big error, right? And a lot of people get stuck here. Again, it's very simple. The DNS, it doesn't see this server. It doesn't know anything about it. If you are trying to connect it this way, it automatically assumes some other DNS server, and it doesn't see anything, no services. So at this point, we need to force it to basically talk to this server. How do we do that? You need to go to the settings, and again, this is another skill starting Windows 10 administration skills. Right, you learn this in your courses, how to change network adapters. So now you're implementing that. You come over here, you go to Ethernet, and here we need to change the DNS settings, DNS server assignment. You click on edit, you change it to manual. You only change the IPv4 in the lab, and if you come over here, you see that we have certain type of addresses, alternative, preferred encryption, blah blah blah. We don't care about that stuff. So what we need to do, we need to put a IP address 192.168.10.200, and we're going to save that. So now you see it's pointing to this DNS. So if I come back now and I click OK, and I click OK here, it's still not working. So there's definitely something else going on. We need to make sure that we put everything correctly right here. So now let's go ahead and check. All right, so we are checking now what's the issue. We're going to click on close this. We may go back to the network settings, and let's go back one more time to Ethernet. And here we're going to click on the DNS IPv4 and verify it's 192.168, and is this the same thing? 192.168.10.200, 192.168.10.200. So that looks pretty good. Preferred DNS this, alternative we have that's off. So what we need to do it one more time. It doesn't work, so let's go ahead and restart this machine. We're going to right click and restart this machine, and then we are going to try it again after restarting this. All right, we're back to Windows 11. Let's go ahead and log in to the help desk. And remember, it's still not connected to the server. We haven't managed it yet. And that's what you're doing. Every time you have a new user joins a company and then they get a laptop or desktop, most likely this is going to be the first step. You're going to install operating system on it, change some few tweaks based on the company's requirement, and then you're going to come over here and you're going to add the machine to the domain. So here we are going to system, going to the system, click on domain or workgroup, click on change. Let's put it again. We're going to say dcdh.jobskillshare.org, and we're still getting error. Okay, now let's see what's going on here. So it's pointing to the right IP address. We know that it's configured correctly. It's dcdh.jobskillshare.org. Now this is where the big thing that you need to really focus on. And just check my mistake. What big mistake that I did? I'm like looking at it. I'm like, why is it not working? Just look at it, and I want you to take maybe a second, pause my video, and look at the screen. And I'm sure you will find the issue. If you find it, put it in the comment before I say it. So I'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Did you find it? Look at this. Look at my mistake. It's right here. You see how easy it is to make these mistakes when you're doing things? And I'm sure somebody might have caught it when I was doing this video, making this video early on. I'm like, hey, that's not shared. What the hell is he doing? And now I found it because I got stuck. So if I come over here, I'm putting shared the right way, but here it's not. Actually, I made the whole domain with a mistake. So anyways, that's fine. No problem. I found the issue. It can be just HS right there. So I fixed it by fixing it here. So you see how it's just a user mistake that takes a lot of time sometimes. But I wasn't looking in the beginning, and I'm looking at like, why is the DNS script be working? So if I click OK now, boom, there you go. The username and password just showed up. So another way for the beginners are that sometimes you want to look at the screens. When you're typing something, either you're typing it wrong, putting a dot, space, or you're just wrong, putting the wrong domain in there. And that could be any scenario. You're maybe putting a wrong letter or something in there, and it causes all these issues, right? It takes another 1 hour or a few minutes for you to realize. So we figured it out. We have added a help desk account as a domain administrator. So that help desk account should actually work here. If you put the help desk and the password here and click OK, now what happens? It should work. You see, it went out there and it says welcome to the domain. Now you have managed this machine to basically be a part of a domain controller. So you click on OK. It's going to ask you to restart this machine, and now boom, this machine is being controlled by this guy right here. How do you know? You don't see it here, you refresh. Boom, it shows up right here. So now, if you give this machine to a company users, so if it's you, they gave it to you, they did this whole creation, they did the domain join, and they give you the help desk account. They say, hey, you're a domain admin too, you got a lot of powerful access, this is your machine, and log in and set up your machine so you can manage other users. So remember in the beginning I said that systems administrator don't give access to the server usually. You don't get access to most cases. You don't get access to the Active Directory, and then you play around with a server, right? A domain controller. They give you access to your machine, and now from your machine you can install Active Directory management tools and stuff like that to manage other users. But for your practice, you can always come to the users over here, and now you can create a new user. And once you create the new user, you can come over here and then click on other user, and you can practice, log in as that user, and then do a lot of things. So you don't have to create a whole brand new machine to practice on a users in Active Directory. You can always come over here, change the username, password, create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 user with different type of access, and then basically they log into this and then learn these skills. So now let's log into this help this account, because we know it's a pretty good, powerful account. We're going to log in. So right now you see, if I log into this help desk, there may not be a good practice. So if I want to log into the Active Directory help desk, this one, and first check that the username is correct. You go to the properties. This is the Active Directory skills, by the way. Again, as I mentioned, you learn it from here, different type of videos that we have shared with you, all the Active Directory trainings. You come over here and then you see the account information. This is the account right here. You may want to click on unlock if it was locked. You just click here. And now you can click on other users, because now you see this is a part of a domain. I can just type help desk here and then password. And now this help desk is being logged into using the domain account, right? So it's a part of this machine right now, the part of this domain controller right now, Active Directory. So this is pretty cool, because now you can manage just like that. You can add another account and log in just like that, right? And then you can check different type of access and play around with sharing folders between network and different type of skills that you may come across in your job, level 1 or level 2 or any level. So there you go. This is the help desk account logged in. After this, usually it depends on the company. If they have, let's say, softwares like Microsoft Office 365, you're just gonna go and download it, set it up for this user. If you need to put a share map folder, you're gonna probably do that through scripts, or maybe through directly like this. You right click here and then basically you come over here and go to like show more properties, map a network drive, and then you use your skills, techniques on what kind of things you already know. So if it's a folder that is being shared on a different server, then you will type the name of that server, just like this example, and you connect it for this user. So it may have a lot of different things going on, specifically based on how that company works, right? But one of the most important skills a lot of people ask, can you manage Active Directory from your help desk machine now? And how would you do that? You need to install Active Directory user management on this machine, because they don't let you connect to this server anymore. But before doing that, can you verify if you are on domain? How did I do that before? You go to CMD. Who am I? And now you see, it's not a help desk a machine name. It's a domain name. But if I do /fqdn, it tells me exactly that I am on which domain right now. And my error domain name is there too. You see? So now this kind of, when you do troubleshooting, when you're working with users, they may test you on this, but people may test you on this, but if you're working in a company, then this makes it easy for you when you know how to use commands. And for that, we have a whole videos, courses, labs, different type of commands that you need to learn. And you will learn that in this type of courses that we're teaching. It's a process. You learn it very simple, like sequential process. So the last thing that I want to do on this, for you to have a little more fun with this, your lab, if you're implementing something like this. After this, I want you to please watch our video, like the free sessions right here, full training. This is full training for free, or join our program to learn more about command line, and you learn something here, you implement it in your lab, or when you're doing a master or the grant project in JSS, you will have quite a few days, like 7 days to finish this. And you're going to have a lot of fun. So after this, one last thing that I want to show, how do you put Active Directory management tools in Windows 11? So let's go ahead and do that. So what you do is you right click, you go to apps and features. All right, so here you basically go to the search and type optional, and you can see we have optional features, add additional features. We're going to click on optional features just to show you the screen that you have installed features right here, and then you click on view features right here. So you're going to click on that, and now you see there's a bunch of features that just popped up, additional features. You're going to type Active Directory. Here's RSAT, Active Directory tools, Active Directory lightweight. This is the one that we were looking for, not the first one. So we're going to click on this and click on next and install. If you try to look for it right now, let's say for example, if I look for Active Directory in the whole search, or let's say server management, something like that, or management tools, nothing is coming up, right? So I don't see that. Usually it will show up like Active Directory management, stuff like that from here, but it's not showing up. So that's what we're looking for right now. Okay, so let's go back. Still installing. While this is installing, let's go ahead and create a brand new user. Oh, it's already installed. So let's go ahead and create a brand new user in Active Directory here in server. We're going to call it Stacy K. And for the username, we can say Stacy K. Next, and make sure you uncheck this password, or you can even check it just to see how user change their password. By the way, when you install when you create a new user, you always do this in the companies. As soon as they log in, they say, hey, what is the password, right? So we want to do this because this is a good practice. So let's go ahead and add the password. So you give this password as a temporary password, the user login, and then they see, hey, I got this password. So what is the policy for the password? How do you answer that question? You have to learn that somewhere, right? So of course you learn that in our training as well. But here, if I come back over here and I see it's already installed, how do we find that? Let's see. You can just type Active Directory. You see, as soon as you type Active Directory, bunch of stuff just came up in your computer. It says Active Directory users and computers. It's a part of your computer now, which is awesome, because now as sysadmin or people who are administrators, they don't have to give you a server access. You can just open your own computer now and you have the Active Directory right in front of you. Again, it may be limited access, but you still have access. Here you go. Stacy's right here. So if she got a call, you're in front of your computer, you're the IT person, you right click, you do whatever. They say her account got locked, you change her password. So you go to the properties, hey, okay, your account is locked, let me unlock you, and here you go. She may call you again, say, hey, I don't know my password, can you reset my password? You right click here and say, okay, yeah, let me reset your password, blah 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 blah. So of course it's not that easy to just change things like that. Of course you're gonna listen to us in the trainings, why and when and what do you do, what kind of questions people will ask, policies and blah blah blah. All that is included in this. So here Stacy is being assigned, she needs to log in to the system. So if Stacy, let's say you want to practice like Stacy now, you created Stacy, so what you do on the same machine, if you have capability, you can always install a new machine, but since we don't have too much RAM and things like that, so we will be using the same machine. So here you have this one machine, you click on other user, and now it's Stacy, right? Stacy K. There you go. Stacy's saying that she see this password change message. She called you guys. Hello, I want to create my password, but I don't know what is what's the complexity or the number. I want to make sure that I know that stuff. Or I'm trying to use my cat password, it's not working. Of course you're going to say, hey, our policies is this. So how do you know these policies? So one, you can do the command line way. Another way is that if you're practicing, then simply come to the server and just know where it's coming from. When you install the server, remember it came with a group policy, right? So you can simply go to your server now, go to tools, and here you go to group policy management. Because like I say, when you're on a domain network, it's being managed by policies, account settings, and stuff like that. So if you come over here, you see this is the domain policies that is being that's going to impact Stacy's password generation and stuff like that. So if you come over here to the domain policy right here, this is a domain policy. So if you click on settings, it is going to generate a report. Okay. So if it generated reports, if you scroll down, this is the policy. You can use a command, find that out. This is your task. On the same machine, you can find this out on her machine or your machine. So it tells you 42 days, 7 characters. So now you have knowledge. You see, when you're working in IT, one is a reactive approach. You're gonna pick up the call, right? And you need to work with Stacy. Customer service. Hi Stacy, what's going on? Blah blah blah. That's one thing. But if you don't have this information, then how would you help Stacy? She could spend another 30 minutes trying to do her cat, dog, mouse password. But if you don't know how to give an answer, you can't just do this without like blindly. So you need to have this information. Some people say this is advanced stuff. We say no, this is not advanced stuff. This is to make your life easier, to help this. This was never taught like this in colleges and universities. They never teach this stuff. They automatically think this is advanced. No, it's not advanced. It's for you to find a command, or if you're doing in a lab environment, you have this, and now if you don't have this, you go and ask your managers that what is the patch of policy now. It's that simple, right? So now you have this knowledge. Now with knowledge, you can tell Stacy that you can change it by using certain type of password. So maybe Stacy have the knowledge now. Stacy went out there and she tried to change the password. Password has been changed. Thank you so much. This is that simple and that smooth. But when you don't have this knowledge, Stacy's getting stressed out. Like, what kind of IT people are? They don't know this stuff. Okay, so now you know how to go and check group policy stuff too. Of course, group policy is advanced. When you go in, you right click, you do editing, stuff like that. But still, you need to learn some basics of it, and that's where you're going to learn from your courses. You need to know what this is, how it's working. Somebody have to explain this to you a little bit more theoretical way. So now you have the knowledge. Now you have all the connections working. Now you have the way to test things. Now you have a way to think ahead or create scenarios. You can really do a lot from these labs. So this is it from JSS. I hope you like it. I hope you will join us in our programs. These are very extensive and good programs for people who want to get into IT. You are going to get a lot of knowledge, access, labs, and everything like that. Some people may say, hey, do you give this type of lab access? We don't give this for, for like, this is not a paid service. This is just the projects. What kind of labs are included? Very powerful stuff. Like, from TestOut, these are simulated labs. So you need to learn it. It has to be reported. So you need to have some kind of step-by-step approach. So there are a lot of labs in TestOut, and then we give practice labs, which is exactly the same access, but it's timely managed because this is very open access. Those are more time managed. So you're still learning. We need to give you those type of labs. This is when people finish their education with us, they get a 7 days access to create everything from scratch. And this is just the little pieces that I showed. Of course, the whole project can take 3 or 4 days to finish, and you're going to learn 87 tickets or 90 tickets, which a normal technician would do that kind of stuff in 6 months. Now, someone says 6 months and 90 tickets, that doesn't make any sense. Well, 6 months different tickets, because when you work in a company as an entry level and you spend 6 months, that doesn't mean every single day you get a brand new issue. Well, every single day you always get repetitive issues. So here with the 90, 100 tickets that you're going to solve is going to be totally different than each other. So it's a skills development. So thank you with that. If you're interested, go to our description, register for this program, join us. It's going to take you about 3 months in the beginning. Then it takes a little more than that for skills development. But the first 3 months is going to be our focus to make you IT pro. And the rest is you becoming a more experienced IT professional by doing a lot of different techniques. Thank you so much.